back to a very casual update on what I have been reading. So I am still reading the book that I've been reading for a long time, the German 19th century historical novel that was written in the 1870s but takes place during the Napoleonic Wars in the area around Berlin. And I've been reading that for many weeks, and I'm still reading it, but I'm kind of now okay with it being my slow read that's taking a long time, and I will not say anything more about it perhaps until I'm finished. In the meantime, I've been sort of looking around at other things. The main thing reading is Kristin Lavransdatter, the trilogy written by Sigrid Undset, Norwegian, Norwegian, but born in Denmark, writer who received the Nobel Prize in 1928, 1 year before Thomas Mann. I looked it up. And so her trilogy is really, really, really interesting. And I had finished The Wreath, the first one, which is utterly delightful. It's her childhood, her upbringing it takes place in, I'm having a peek here at when it's 14th century Norway, so way back in the day. And I'll have to kind of do some geographical looking around as to where it's actually taking place. But one thing I know about Sigrid Undset is that she converted to Catholicism at some point in her life. Now, Norway is not known for being a very Catholic country, but I'm pretty sure that's why she's kind of decided to set her story in the 14th century as opposed to later on. And so let me say a few more things about the first book, which is, as I said, it's fantastic. It's so moving. It's beautifully written. It's not overly descriptive, but it has enough description of setting that you get a clear idea of what's going on. And Kristin's just a fantastic character. It's very female-centric. It sort of moves around from being almost stream of consciousness, but not really, and then kind of her surroundings. But it is clearly from her point of view all the time. And one of the most charming aspects of the novel, the first one, is the connection to her father. She's very close to her father, more than to her mother, who's a difficult character. And so that's just and I think that's part of why, as a bit of a joke, but not entirely, I said it reminded me of Laura Ingalls Wilder for adults. So it reminds me of the Little House books a tiny bit. Of course, they take place in a different country and time, but there's something about the matter-of-factness of it that kind of I really, really enjoyed. And it's at the end, it turns more into a romance, and that's also very gripping and very well depicted. And I have to admit that before I kind of knew more about the author, I thought it might go in a different direction. Then now in the second book, her Catholicism is coming through in a more clear way. And that's just, I still love it. But the whole tone, her adult life is just very different from her childhood. And most of that does stem from her husband, we have to say, who's problematic. And it's also sort of interesting because I keep going back to the end of the other book because she did fall for him. I think I will come back and tell you more about it when I read the whole thing, because it's from her beginnings to her end. And I think a lot more is going to happen. I really just, I'm making my way into the second one, and the tone is quite different. And I could sort of see why people love the first one more, but I'm still enjoying it. And especially as a listen to book, it's working really, really well. So enough about that one. And then the other things I have in the docket, part of me actually was interested, but I'm not sure if I really will do it, but you never know, is rereading the Little House books just as a comfort read, going back from the first one. One thing that I just always remember very fondly are the illustrations by Garth Williams. I just think they fit it so well. And even like the first one here of them playing, it's just, I think they're just so sweet. There's a sweetness to them, and I really think they help the book. And it's so clear how this is Laura and this is Mary. Mary's the prim and proper one, and then Pa and Ma. I just have such an attachment to these books, however problematic they now have deemed to be, because of they're portrayed, because these are settlers. Settlers. It's definitely their point of view. Oh, I mean, look at this bear. I mean, come on. This is delightful illustrations of this book. Anyway, I might still do this. We'll see. I have all of them in my little little box. And I don't know if I've read the one. I wasn't as interested in Almanzo, her husband. And she did do a biography of him, which I'm not sure if I finished that one, but I would like to. I got up to when she's married. And, you know, even there, her life is different from her childhood, but I guess that's normal for a lot of people. So that's just an idea I'm having. I don't know if I'll pick it up. Tell me your thoughts on Laura Ingalls Wilder. I mean, I grew up in Australia and then Germany, and in both places I just would always turn to her books. Maybe it's one of the reasons why I ended up in America. I don't know. Anyway, what else? So another thing, I was looking around for sort of comforting, not too deep reads, and I came across this collection of books just because I do like how they look. The Furrowed Middlebrow collection, that's the sort of title of this. Well, the press is Dean Street Press, I think, and you've probably seen them on other channels. And I came across this, not knowing that Susan Scarlet is a pseudonym for someone who I'm equally not that well known, was not that well known to me, and that is Norl Streatfeild, who wrote the ballet shoes. Now, I never came across her. I have a feeling I would have loved ballet shoes if I had come across her. This is her children's book, and it's her most famous book that apparently was quoted. Meg Ryan's character in You've Got Mail mentions it. Anyway, that's her actual name, and she wrote these books that are considered romances under a pseudonym, and there's quite a few of them. And Furrowed Middlebrow, with the little housey thing at the top, has published maybe all of them, I don't know. And Obsessive Cathy had to get the first one, and this is the first one, called Clothes Pegs, because I actually started another one, but then I had to get this one. It's my birthday, I wanted to get it, and I just ordered it quickly so I can start reading it, because I didn't want to read it online. They're all available for Kindle too, so for not that much money. But I actually want to maybe even collect some of these editions. And I've started it, and it kind of, it's writing about lower middle class people who have to turn every penny. It was published in 1939. It's going to turn into a romance, but I really like how they're depicting the daughter that is going to be the center of it all, who's, as one example is that she says here how the family doesn't think that she's beautiful. She's a good looking young woman, but the family doesn't see it. So it's a little bit like the point of view is outside of her own family. And it reminds me quite a bit in the beginning of Fortnight in September. R.C. Sheffield? R.C. Sheriff, maybe? Sorry, blanking on the name. But Fortnight. Remember that if you've read it, the very delightful story of this family going on holiday. And this is sort of the same family, but not really, because they have more kids. And it's not exactly the same, but similar sort of situation in society. So very, very petit bourgeois, very, very having to watch out for things and save money. And I like stories like that, where you see kind of, these are people who are not rich, who have to sort of be careful with their money, and you see the struggles. But then it's going to turn into the daughter who works as a seamstress, having adventures of a romantic nature. And so, yeah, I'll tell you more when I'm into it, when I've perhaps even finished it. I've moved away from weekly updates. I'm just going to update you on my reading whenever I have something to say, or just feel like chatting with you about my reading, which I'm actually kind of enjoying. It took me a long time and kind of inward turning to get away from the weekly updates, but I like the new format that I'm kind of just uploading whenever and whatever. So, and you seem to all be liking it too, at least in terms of likes and comments and all that good stuff. Last but not least, this is a book I've had on my shelf for a long time, and it will be a sort of one that I dip into slowly because it's very short, and that is Rilke's Letters to a Young Poet. And it's a classic, and I know that a lot of people love it, And these are really letters he wrote to a young poet who I don't think no one really knows much about the actual young poet. I don't know. He obviously didn't make much of a mark, but what did make a mark are the letters that Rilke wrote to him. So there you go. And it's sort of like on the Instagram I just wrote self-help for creatives, because it does have that kind of I'm giving you advice, but because it's Rilke, the advice is very sort of, I don't know what to call it, Rilke-esque. Like in the beginning there's one quote where he says, if your everyday life seems to lack material, do not blame it, blame yourself. Tell yourself that you are not poet enough to summon up its riches, for there is no lack for him who creates, and no poor trivial place, etc., etc. So this idea of not blaming life for you thinking it boring, blaming it's your own inability to see its riches, which I just absolutely love. It's kind of one of the mottos I try and live by when everyday life is kind of seeming kind of not what you want it to be. So yeah, I think that's it. Nothing else to tell you in terms of my reading. And yeah, what are you guys reading for the weekend? And let me know if any of these seem if you've read any of them, or if they seem of interest to you. And I will chat to you very soon. Bye bye.